And I think we're live. Well, at least I hope
Hopefully.
so. Well, no,
Yeah.
I'm I'm checking YouTube on my iPad. Yeah, it's good. So we
That's
have
what
to wait.
happens when you take a month off.
Yeah, we have to wait 10 seconds anyway. We cannot curse or do anything bad in the first 10 seconds or you get demonetized.
Mm.
That's a new rule on YouTube. There was some controversy about that out there. So Daniel, how you doing?
Pretty good, you man. Do you enjoy the holidays?
Yeah, absolutely. You look much
Very nice.
better.
Yeah, I got a little upgrade of a camera here, trying not to be the
Ah,
ghost of
that
the years
explains.
past.
Yeah, I should have put a slide with the evolution of Daniel across the different episodes. Starting with a white ghost to a yellow ghost, and now you're picture perfect.
Going into the third year of this, I'm sure we have a lot of images to show the
Yeah.
progression of
Oh, yeah.
the pale white Daniel. It's
How we got there. And now you look better than me, so I need to upgrade my camera.
all a game of lighting, I guess.
So, oh yeah, small update. Yeah, during the holidays, you did some reshuffling on the
Yeah,
resources,
we kind
right?
of got a couple new social media sites and places to post up some information. We migrated over to Substack for our newsletter. We posted up a GitHub page where our references, and malware, some resources that can be found from Pascal and myself. And we also have our Twitter account as well and our Telegram channels that we created last year.
Yeah, let me give you mouse and keyboard control. You
Oh,
can...
don't do this because I just, just my ADHD and I move
Don't be
around the
nervous.
whole
Don't be
time.
nervous. All will be okay. So once again, like we ended last year with a massive episode, I'm afraid that we're back this year with another massive episode. It's like the threat landscape is evolving exponentially. If you look at the number of things that are happening, it's crazy. I
Yeah.
was I was
But
out.
one thing that we are exploring is that we're going to start cutting up these sections and posting little clips of
Mhm.
each little segment from the TRL podcast. So
Yeah,
if you don't want to watch the whole full length podcast, you can actually find little clips about the sections that we're going to be talking about today.
yeah. Let's call it a YouTube video, not a podcast, because a podcast is something that we're also looking into. We might come with a podcast
A
later
live
this
stream.
year. So we have the live stream here. Tomorrow, typically, well, the day after, typically, I put in the different sections so that you can jump a section because I can imagine that some people want to go straight to the attacks and supply chain attacks. Other people are more interested in the Ukrainian-Russian war. Other people want to hear about activists. Some people only interested in botnets. So I'm gonna create the sections by tomorrow, so it will be easier to jump around. The thing that gives you when you join the live is that you can interact with us, so you can ask questions. Of course, when you do it on demand, yeah, you can always leave comments in the chat. But yeah, we need to check comments in the chat more often. So if people ask questions, we can always answer them there, or you get in touch with us through one of the aliases that's on the screen right now. So Radware Research on Twitter or on Telegram. And also soon after this episode, Daniel will make a newsletter, send it out. So everybody who's subscribed to the new Substack, because we moved away from the Twitter one, we went to Substack now. So if you subscribe there, you will get that news every month as a summary email with all the links and resources. The links and resources will be uploaded. I don't think you uploaded them yet, Daniel. Oh yeah, you did. Okay, so
Yep.
cool. Wow, look at that. So links and resources through the link below. You should be able to get them on our GitHub page. Yeah, so we post them on
Yep.
GitHub now because we used to do it on Pastebin, but Pastebin started to drop us off because there were some words in there that Pastebin didn't like. And Pastebin was not so friendly as telling me which word it was. So in a couple of thousand words, I was not going to go search for the potential magic word that did not go through Pastebin's.
I was going to say there used to be or there is a song that makes a reference to put it on paste, spin, it won't get erased then.
Yeah,
You're
well,
telling me that Facebook's erasing content now?
no. I didn't say that they erased it. They just did not accept it to be put on Pastebin in the first place.
Oh, they wouldn't like actually let it be posted. Nah.
Yeah, well, I put it there in private, but when I tried to publish it, make it public, then it said no, it contains words that are against our policy. So apparently, Pastebin now has a policy, so cannot put anything anymore there. So we go to GitHub because GitHub apparently allows much more profanity than Pastebin for some reason. So,
As
but you
long as
can
we're not
find it
hosting
on.
malware and we put educational resources only, or for educational
Oh
purposes
yeah,
only,
yeah,
then I think we'll be fine.
we are fine. It's all clean. There is not even profanity in the text that I published. I don't even know where Pastebin got the idea that there was bad words in there because it's the title from the slides. So plus the references, all the links. But there you have all the links. So if you want to find more information or investigate further, you can always find it there. So let's dive right in, Daniel. Anonymous. It's been a while since we
There.
talked about Anonymous. Um,
Yeah, that was one of the things I want to do is kind of highlight the growth of Anonymous. We've been paying a lot of attention to the Ukrainian-Russian war and the threat actors involved there. But Anonymous, as we've written about, has come back with some vengeance here. They started off December with some operations targeting China, and then they moved over in the new year to Op Serbia, where they've been launching DDoS attacks against the Serbian government. At first, not a lot of people understood exactly who was launching these attacks, as if it could be Killnet and some of the pro-Russian groups, which is kind of confusing, but we'll get into that in a second here. Anonymous has claimed responsibility for these attacks on Op Serbia, as I said. They're launching DDoS attacks, they're doing defacements of government sites. They're also doing misleading leaks. And the reason why I say misleading leaks is because some of the leaks that they published underneath Serbia, the current operation, were not exactly valid. They're public information that can be found on the internet. It was just repackaged, which is typical TTPs of Anonymous. Usually they are very active with DDoS and defacements, but the leaks can sometimes be, as I said, misleading. But the result of this attack is more or less because of the political positioning of Serbia in the Balkans. And so basically, the president of Serbia will not recognize the referendum of occupied Ukraine. So Russians went into Ukraine in certain regions. They held votes to see if they would actually annex themselves and leave Ukraine and become part of Russia or this different territory. The president of Serbia, who has good relations with Russia, will not recognize this referendum. So, of course, there's going to be a little bit of attack and hostility coming from pro-Russian attackers, but also Anonymous as well, due to ethnic violence in the south. So, down in Kosovo, there's been some regional issues, some violence with the Albanian authorities, which has led to many anonymous actors to be launching DDoSs for justice, as they call it. Now, moving into the next operation here. There we go. OpSafe Winter. Thank you, Pascal. OpSafe Winter is another operation that's run yearly by Anonymous. It's not necessarily a popular operation, but it's something that occasionally makes the news. Specifically here in Denver, it's an issue when the winter comes around, all the snow comes around. The city sometimes is a little aggressive with removing the homeless camps. And this is the same situation that happened in Tokyo at the, correct me if I say this right, Shinbua
Shibuya,
Ward in
yeah.
Tokyo. In Tokyo. It was the ward meaning district, so it's like not a hospital or anything like that. It's specifically the district inside of Tokyo, and it was hit with a DDoS attack. The official website was actually knocked offline, and the ward actually came out and admitted to this on Twitter. After Anonymous had claimed responsibility, so it was just a single target DDoS attack. They simply the official website was knocked over, and this was because the ward was actually evicting homeless people from a camp and a park right across the street um, from their main office. Now, this, of course, upset Anonymous, so they launched a DDoS attack, but the ward also responded by offering apartments to these homeless people that they could stay in during the winter. So, typical Anonymous activists activity. Sorry, that's a tongue twister there. Where Anonymous is launching DDoS attacks for justice. But in this situation, they kind of got to resolve is the fact that the ward in Tokyo decided to actually house the homeless for the winter time so they won't be out in the cold, which is a good thing. I think we can all agree on.
Yeah. So Anonymous activated an activist activity.
Yeah. Say that 7 times fast, right?
Uh, I thought this over a couple of times before I said it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tongue twister there for
If you see
sure.
my eyes rolling,
Okay, and going on to the other section on hacktivism here,
yeah,
Wired has put up some great articles about hacktivism, the rise of hacktivism last year. The two of the titles are "Hacktivism is Back and Messier Than Ever" and "Hacktivism is a Risky Career Path." And so this is basically talking about what we've been talking about on this live stream for last year about the reemergence of hacktivism at scale. So the years prior, before was it 2021 and going back, Anonymous had kind of been uh, on the downtrend, and hacktivist campaigns in general were on the downtrend. We see a lot of people that are actually moving into the security community, people that weren't really so involved or invested in hacktivism. But that all kind of changed on February 23rd, 2022, when the Ukrainian-Russian war began. And we saw a huge emergence of hacktivism. We saw all these new tools, or all these old tools, should I say, like Loy Koik, come flying back, all those attack vectors. And we saw for the first time the blurring of the lines between hacktivism and state aligned hacktivism. So you had groups like the IT Army of Ukraine that's actually sponsored by Ukraine. And then you have groups like Hacknet that are pro-Russian hackers that are affiliated or aligned with the Russian government. And so both these articles kind of paint this picture about how hacktivism is growing and how it's becoming a bigger threat, and also what is going to happen after the war. And this is a question that we brought up several times about, as soon as a peace treaty is signed, are these hacktivists going to apply to this peace treaty? Are they going to actually put down their DDoS tools and stop attacking? Which a lot of these people in the community, including myself, believe that this is not going to stop when a peace treaty is signed. So definitely something to look into as far as hacktivism and how hacktivism will evolve in the next year. And if you want to get a little bit better perspective and you haven't watched some of the past videos that we talked about, these are two great articles to check out.
yeah, for sure, and also the involvement of civilians civilians, the involvement of the global community into hacktivism, and even people who had no idea how to perform DDoS attacks, because a lot of the hacktivists have put up tutorials and improved tools, and as you said, taking the old tools like Loik and Hoik, improve them, make them more hurting for websites by randomizing requests, by leveraging encryption, studying how the websites are working, some creating tools that attract people to actually go perform the attacks, and we will see that coming up, I think, with No Name and the incentives that they provide. Isn't that the next slide actually? Oh, no, it isn't.
No, actually, it's
Yeah,
IT Army, but
but this will come up later down the road. So the involvement of many more people, democratization of DDoS attacks,
yeah, and
making
especially like seeing a lot of emotionally compromised people that have chosen influential hackers, like we've covered in the past, as far as and specifically what you're talking
yeah,
about, people that are putting up how-tos,
yeah.
how to download and install these DDoS tools and how
YouTube
to attack with,
influencers.
yeah,
People who go on YouTube and try to influence other people to buy crypto, to invest in certain cryptos and or products. But now it also happens with DDoS. It happened with DDoS attacks.
yeah. The second, as I call it, the second wave of hacktivism after the Russian-Ukraine conflict is going to be a very interesting case study for a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
people in the industry.
yeah. We will see some stats coming up as well about the attacks in Russia, which was mostly hacktivism attacks. So, and we are also working on our report, which is to come out in 2 weeks from now, I believe, that we will publish our report, and we also see good amount of activity that is relating to hacktivism. So yeah, it's the new kid on the block, I would say, or the renewed kid on the block.
It's definitely making things interesting. And then also going into the new year, this is I'd say new TTP, but something that the IT Army is favoring is defacements lately.
Mhm.
And then basically what happened is over the New Year's, the IT Army decided to deface many government websites in Russia with a message from President Zelensky of Ukraine, greeting Ukrainians with the New Year and kind of giving them a nice little pep talk to stay strong into the New Year as well, which is in my opinion, pretty hilarious. This form of hacking I find entertaining and humorous. That they're going so far as to deface government websites in Russia
Yeah,
and
it's not
post
their
up
first
information.
time. Last
Yeah.
time they took over a broadcasting, couple of broadcasting channels, did a broadcast there. There was the IP cameras that they took over to play the national anthem of Ukraine in all different, in shops and in public places. So yeah, stunt
Defacements are actually
hacking.
kind of becoming on the uptrend, coming out 2022.
Yeah,
They're not exactly the most favorable tactic with activists, but it's a great way for them to spread propaganda and spread their message,
well,
and also
yeah.
have an impact on local civilians, which the IT Army is definitely aiming for that. They want
Mhm.
civilians to see these messages to understand the rights and wrongs of the war.
Yeah, you have to not forget the primary objective of a hacktivist is to get his message out to be heard. That's why they do DDoS attacks, not because of the DDoS, but because they know that somebody will cover that DDoS attack and it might be linked back to them and then they can bring out their message, which has been the TDPs for No Name and especially for Killnet. No Name is not that mediatized and they're not after media, but Killnet for sure absolutely is mediatized and
Oh yeah,
that's his tactic. It's performing DDoS attacks because they're easy to do. Everybody can perform a DDoS attack. A defacement can be already a little bit more difficult, although most defacements are not that hard to pull off if you see how they are done. And they share the tutorials on their websites anyway. And in some cases, like Dragon Force Malaysia, they had a special website that was a tool, and people just went to that website, put in the URL, and it defaced automatically for them for certain applications. So websites are running WordPress, I believe it was, or another kind of application that was PHP based. So they have tutorials, they have tools, they are fairly well organized. But yeah, as we have access to a big, rich library of proof of concepts and attacks and code and AIs that can generate those things now, so do they. So
yeah,
don't forget that everything you know, they know as well, maybe even better. Um, so take that into account. That's the person that you're up against.
definitely a slippery slope.
Yeah. So and also closely after New Year, so on December 31st, the Ukrainian air defense shot down several drones. You've probably seen that in the news. And those drones that Russia used were supplied by Iran. Not the most modern and best drones, but but anyway, the best they could get. And yeah, based on that, pro-Ukrainian hacktivists did launch DDoS attacks on the Iranian website. So the typical target that's always involved is the website of the supreme leader Ali Khamenei, but also on the National Iron Oil Company. And yeah, they basically said Iranians, it's not your war, so step down and go away. In paraphrasing here. And they also said that each bombardment going forward, they will be punished. They will do cyber attacks on the critical infrastructure. What hurts me a little bit is that they say we cooperate with the international community and know where your weaknesses are. So they're basically saying that they are an international community. Which like blurs the line. It's like the whole world is fighting against Iran now.
Yeah,
But
they've had like some serious protests too that result in DDoS, so they've been taking it on the chin pretty hard for the last half of 2022.
yeah. So and then yeah, that's more recent. That was yesterday actually. It was a deja vu moment. Because
Yeah, seeing that on Telegram was definitely, huh? What?
yeah, I believe that it was day before yesterday that Germany said, well, or they were not sure yet, but yesterday they confirmed that they would supply Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. And by the way, yesterday was our friend, how's the prime minister from Ukraine again? Name?
President President Zelensky.
Zelensky. Yeah, there you go. Sorry, probably the most famous person in the world right now. I forgot his name.
I never hold you to you, man. I'm horrible with names, so it's okay.
So it was his birthday actually yesterday. So for his
Oh
birthday, he
wow,
got tanks. The best I get is a tank in World of Tanks, but he got some Leopard 2 tanks for his birthday.
you're
Um,
making an American really jealous over here. I need some freedom. I need some tanks. I'll take a German tank. I'll take an American tank. I'll take anything. What are you gonna do with it, Daniel? I'm gonna drive it down the street.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's also gonna drive it down the street, I'm pretty sure. Uh, but by saying that, of course, yeah, that triggered something in Russia because the Kremlin has been talking about this since last week. If you supply this, this is an all-out open war from the West against Russia and so on. But yeah, so Killnet, of course, same TTP as with the U.S. airport attacks last year. They went and tried to, or not tried, but attacked all the airports in Germany. And the same tactic, so the public side of the website, so the air traffic was not impacted. That's also what the BSI's assessment was. Air traffic was not impacted. It's the public websites that went down for a couple of minutes that were not accessible. So it was, again, it was about having their message heard, showing that they are against that delivery of Leopard 2 tanks. Now, the funny one statement actually in the Reuters report, in the same Reuters article, was that the Kremlin spokesperson who was addressing the reporters when they asked, and he said, "We're not aware of what Killnet is. Honestly, wonder why any group of hackers is associated with Russia and not with some other European country." So it's like,
It's
huh?
pretty funny.
Yeah, Killnet. We have never heard of Killnet. Sorry.
Russia, we have no hackers in Russia. What are you talking about?
This is like so funny. It's like,
It's like it's like asking a 5-year-old kid if they did something wrong or something, and just straight up lie by acknowledgement.
well, it could be if he spoon-fed propaganda from Russia, then he probably never heard about Killnet. Although that Killnet was on Russian TV, it was on RT with an
Yeah, I
interview.
was gonna say,
You
yeah.
have rappers singing about Killnet, so and then the guy says, "Killnet, we're not aware of any Killnet. What's Killnet?" No. Yeah, sorry. Hard hard to believe.
Very hard to believe. So, and other news related to the Ukrainian-Russian war, there's warnings coming out from Poland. So basically, the Polish government was warning about threats from Russia. The first threat was Ghostwriter, which is a threat group that was targeting the government and also critical organizations and infrastructures with spear phishing attacks. So they're attempting to drop info stealers, grab credentials, and pivot further up the network. They're also warning about spies in their country. They arrested 2 individuals that were connected with the GRU, and they are announcing that that they have found some malicious activity inside the country that we'll get to with another story a little bit later. But definitely highlights the growing threat and the risk coming from the Ukrainian-Russian war and spilling over into other countries, specifically their neighboring countries.
Oh yeah, we already mentioned that. It's like a new cyber Cold War that's happening out there. Well, no, new Cold War, and a lot of that Cold War is in cyber because you see the tensions in different governments gearing up with offensive security programs, governments gearing up to do more defensive things. We've seen it happening by the end of last year. Oh, we can Taiwan creating an army. Who else was it? Yeah, America calling for offensive people. So people who do offensive
Japan, even
operations.
Japan and Korea. There's Taiwan. There's been
Mhm,
many countries that
yeah,
have decided to
Aus
pursue more
Australia.
offensive
Yeah,
capabilities. Yeah.
Australia who also put up a team of people who will hack the hackers. Um, so yeah, we have seen a lot of that, and
Oh, this is a good story here.
yeah, related to that, and we have been saying it in the past. So you have that kind of cyber war out there, but it's basically fought by patriotic hacktivists. And those hacktivists on the Russian side, because we cover most of the Russian side, but yeah, the first one that was actually created, the people who started with legions was the IT army of Ukraine. So the vice president of Ukraine himself, who created that Telegram group and who asked everyone to join that group, and then starting to perform attacks on Russia. And yeah, as usual, the easiest attack to pull off is DDoS attack, and also the most impacting, most visible. So they started with DDoS attacks, and that's also what was witnessed in the report by Rostelecom, which is the #1 service provider in Russia. But there's also a lot of attack activity coming from Russia, which we cover much more, which we hear much more in the Western world, of course. uh, because Killnet and No Name and a couple of others like Hacknet, they have been coming after European countries and also American, so Western countries basically. Now, the funny thing about those legions is that they go after any Western nation that says something bad about them. Not only Western, Japan was also involved at some point because they said something.
About
But
the Kuril Islands, about
yeah,
how yeah,
exactly. So, but the point is that they go after those nations, but less after Ukraine. So the activity that you see in Ukraine itself is not by the legions, but those are mostly attributed to nation states. So that's where you see the nation states doing their attacks. The DDoS attack at the start that used the Vega infrastructure was
yeah,
attributed to Sandworm. So that was the night, or yeah, the morning before the attacks in the
February
invasion
22nd. Yep.
actually happened. So that was in a hybrid warfare scenario, let's say, where they wanted to cause chaos and take things down, communications down, so they could do the attack. But the other legions was more outside of the country, so that's an interesting observation that we had. And looking now at the attacks in Russia, yeah, well, we're not surprised that they went massively high. So it was a record year. Um, 21 million web attacks, and yeah, I have to say defacements, all kinds of data leak. If you want to intrude a company, well, the first thing that you go after is their web applications and APIs because those are publicly exposed. And then, of course, you go to the more tactics that are used by the initial access brokers, try to get in through RDP or Secure Shell or Telnet, whatever access you can find, and then move laterally. But typically for those hacktivists, it's web attacks and DDoS attacks. So 500,000 DDoS attacks on Moscow alone. Moscow is also the most busy district, district city for Russia. I think that will take the most of the
Yeah,
organizations
the
that are
brunt of the
located there.
force for sure.
Yeah. So the largest DDoS attack that they recorded was 760 gigabit per second, which was 2 times as high compared to the largest one in 2021. Um, and also they noted that there were less attacks in the second half of the year. But yeah, and I I wasn't sure if I needed to write became or become, so I just make it become. Play it safe. Typo in my
I
slide.
wasn't gonna bring it up, but yeah, typos happen. We're human here.
Yeah, you have
We're
to know
not.
that those slides are made like we're not like going over the slide deck again and again. We have too much information to put in there.
And
So,
believe it or not, we've cut so many slides out of this
oh yeah.
presentation alone. It's could probably make another hour-long presentation. So the threat landscape keeps
Yeah.
evolving, but to the point of this report right here, I think it's very interesting in the fact that it highlights the growing amount and the size of the
The
attacks that
the growing amount in the
pro West.
beginning. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we covered the reports on hacktivist activity where people saw that in the first couple of months they got a lot of traction, a lot of people joining, but then after that it like goes down. The interest is over. People are like, okay, been there, done that.
but this is something I wrote about where I talked about
Yeah.
like the euphoria, the high from launching a
Mhm.
DDoS attack can only last so many months until you realize that you need to advance your own skills and advance your own tactics and techniques to make a greater impact. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like what you're seeing is multiple waves of people coming in, launching attacks, they're leaving, other people coming in under renewed
Well,
euthanism.
and
It's
becoming more sophisticated. So, like we said, it's boring to launch the same DDoS attack all the time. So let's make something. Let's go study, and they also get more experience. So they launch more sophisticated and more targeted attacks instead of just shooting at everything that moves. You're actually gonna pick out the specific targets that you wanna go after and that you think might make the news and make a good story. And that's where we saw the attack on Sparebank of 450 gigabit per second in May. Also, the same month, the disruption of the alcohol distribution. That was a major event that I remember. In December, the second largest bank of Russia, VTB Bank. I don't know if it's VTB. The V is pronounced different, I think. But you can see that since the invasion, yeah, it ramped up and then it went to trot and then came back in December. But I would agree with them. I see the same activity on the side of the Western world, actually. But
Yeah,
I see them growing, growing, growing. But I do agree with this more sophisticated, more targeted attacks, however. Um, some areas in the world had lesser attacks and then went up in the end of the year. But globally, the attacks have been growing, growing, growing this year. It's amazing how fast the number of attacks was growing this year. What we
yeah.
recorded. So look for that report. It will be interesting. Coming on, yeah. Uh, a repeat of something we already talked about in October, but for some reason the press thought that it was good to bring it back up, or the media better. So no name 05716 that had their project Didosia that we have been following pretty closely since the beginning.
Yes, we have.
Still following,
Uh,
by the way.
yeah, it is interesting. We actually posted out an alert. I think it was in October. Yeah,
Yeah.
about the creation of DDoSia and what No Name 05716 was doing with the project. It's kind of been interesting to see how it's shaken out over the last like few months. I think Pascal has a little bit more information to speak about it, but like watching the targets and who they attack and
Mhm.
generally how the group has grown over the months has been pretty entertaining. It's very interesting to watch these groups grow and come up from an idea and spread out to thousands and thousands of people and become so formidable that they actually do make the news and they actually do take down targets. So
Yeah, well, no, now they made the news, especially with big prices, cash for offer. I would say, okay, big prices. We already covered that back in October, and the price did not change. The big price is
yeah.
like 1,200 US dollar for the top attacker. And you see an example there of what they posted in December. And I think that December was the last one that they posted that they said, okay, we're gonna give those top
Yep.
attackers, which are Dim Dimov, how many million billions of attacks? Guest hacker with billions of attacks, very close to Dim Dimov, and then GG Script, also billions of attacks. So, but yeah, those are actually verified attacks, I believe. So they
Yep.
have a tool that they developed. In the beginning, it was a Python tool that was just compiled into an executable that was distributed through their Telegram. You subscribe on their Telegram, you got the link. That link went to GitHub, and from GitHub you could download an executable, which was the bot, and that was for several platforms. So for Mac, for Linux, different ARM-based I believe, and then also for so Mac, Linux, Windows. Yeah, there you go. And that was just a compiled Python, and even the Python code itself was available. Yeah, for Linux, the Python code itself was available, so you can run it at Python, but it was obfuscated. But in the most stupid way possible. It was obfuscated to deobfuscate it, you just go down the source code where you had the execute of the special obfuscated string. You just replaced execute with print, and then it just printed out the whole source code. So that's how we saw how they were working and how we could connect into their feed and get all the targets that they are targeting. So we've been monitoring all the attacks they've been carrying out and what kind of attacks they're doing. Basically, it's SYN attacks, HTTPS attacks, and as I said, they evolved from the simple attacking the slash of the website, just going after the host name, to be more smart about it. First, they go to the website, they try to identify the forms that are there to post information. So like on a government website, you always have somewhere a form to post feedback or to fill in some financial information in the form, post that. There are also file uploads sometimes. So some government website, they ask you upload your document, attach it to this form. Well, they find those kind of forms because they know that those are more impacting on the server in terms of CPU, and then they create a special request to go to that form and a post body with randomized data. So what they do is then they put that information in their command and control feed, send it to all the bots, and the bots then generate their own random information and do that post over and over and over again to the website, making it more complex to stop the attacks because the attacks all look like legitimate requests to begin with. And also the information is changing all the time. So caching does not help. They go straight to CDN caches. Also, it has more impact on the server because the server thinks that this is a post, so he has to process all the information and maybe even store it in a database, which then in the backend becomes a problem for the people who sit behind that screen and have to go through all the form posts with all the information because 9 out of 10 of the information that's posted from citizens is just trash. It's spam. It's random information. So they impact them on several layers by doing those random posts. Not only the server itself, but also the people who sit behind, who have to go through all those posts and look at it and filter out the good ones and take out the bad ones. So
Yep. And it
and
hasn't been smooth sailing for No Name either.
oh
Like
no, yeah, they had
they've had a
growing
few
pains.
issues.
Yeah, they had
Yeah.
issues along the
I,
way.
I think with the last round of media that they end up losing all their information on GitHub, correct? GitHub actually deleted the
Yeah,
repository.
yeah. So with
Yeah.
Sentinel-1 saw that the binaries were hosted on GitHub and they reported it to GitHub and GitHub took them offline. But what they do right now, if you go to Telegram and you ask for a new binary, they just send you the binary in a zip straight on Telegram. So it did not affect them that much. They did not change. So they also moved away from Python. They went to a Golang binary, which is more difficult to reverse, but it's still the same tactics. They just changed their command and control infrastructure because they lost it. They were hosted in Russia originally, and for some reason, that Russian service provider found that they were against their policies by doing malicious DDoS attacks. So they just kicked him out, and now they're somewhere. I think they are in.
But to not to cut you off, but like just to mention that is becoming a growing trend in Russia as far as internal conflict, where Russians want to support a pro-Russian hacktivist group, but other Russians do not want them to support. And we've seen a couple examples that we'll get into later about how Russians have tried to support these hacktivist groups and have lost everything because of it.
Yeah. So now they're in. Is it Hungary that they are hosting? So they had a
I thought it
bulletproof
was.
hoster. Bulgaria, no, Bulgaria, I believe, not Hungary, Bulgaria. It's a Bulgarian bulletproof hoster where they have their command and control service now. And yeah, the attack targets, well, it's the ones that you see in the press. So Czechia was one of the last ones that were attacked. Germany was also there yesterday and day before yesterday, or in their posts, or in their feeds better. But you can also follow it on their Telegram channel. There's enough people already covering their Telegram channel, so we just keep the statistics, and at some point we will come out with some surprises on No Name when the
Just
time's
pay
right.
attention.
Talking about
This is a good
funding,
one.
fun funding. Killnet. Yeah, well, actually, we found that yesterday, and that was based on a small article, a strange article that I got from somebody in my email over the holidays because yeah, I was only looking into it with half an eye, and it was Danish. Dagbladet,
Uh,
which is like
Norwegian, actually. It's a
Norwegian, yeah.
Norwegian,
And oh yeah,
media outlet.
yeah, yeah,
They actually really dug into killing it. They've
yeah.
done many pieces on the group. If you really kind of sit on that media website
Hmm.
and go through it, they really get into the funding and who's giving money and who's making money
Yeah.
for the KillNet organization, which is I'm gonna let Pascal go with this because it's so exciting.
It's fine. You can be excited. It's fun,
Oh, that's good.
actually. Yeah. Well, fun. Yeah. It's fun to see. But
It's really interesting to see how the threat landscape goes. You
yeah.
know, like later on today, we'll be releasing a blog talking about, KillNet Social Circle. But like when you actually dig into it, and you look at like how people support different hacking groups, and
Mhm.
this is nothing new. It's something that we've seen many examples of over the year. But right now we're in the middle of this giant, what we consider a global war conflict, a global cyber conflict, and you actually have a jewelry artist out there that is
Yeah.
making jewelry for KillNet.
Yeah.
Uh,
Supporting
and
Killnet and doing business at the same time. So that
yeah,
was these come from the. Actually, they're out there in the open. If you go to the VK page, vContacte is it's from mail.ru. Mail.ru, the big, it's like the Google of Russia, and they have like a Facebook page. Yeah, in Russia, Google and Facebook are the same thing. They're in one and the same company, not like in the Western world. But when you go to VContact, or to the Killnet page, they have two posts out there where they promote jewelry. One of them is a ring with Killnet on it, as you can see on the left. It's selling for 20,000 ruble. It's a promotion right now, probably for Valentine. Um, so about 290 US dollar, and also a matching set of earrings, clearly with Killnet branding on that. So
It's it's really interesting. This is being sold by a jewelry artist in Moscow.
yeah, we will come back to that
Like
one. We have a slide
okay,
specifically. We can talk about that
yeah.
when his face
I'm
pops
jumping
up.
a slide ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As I said, I'm excited about this. I personally want to get one of these rings just as a collectible from the cyber
Yeah.
conflict. Like we all collect the little Snorties from Cisco and little 3D printed gadgets at DEF CON. This, I think, would be a very interesting collectible
Yeah.
piece in the world of cybersecurity.
But you should be aware that by buying such a ring, you are funding a criminal association because for every ring that's being sold, half of the proceedings go to Killnet. So that's what it says in the Russian text below. So of the 290 US dollar that you would pay for a ring, 145 US dollar goes to Killnet, and the same for the earrings. So 50% goes to Killnet's small, how they call it, their piggy bank. But Killnet
You
has
know,
been funded by donations, and he always talking. Kill Milk is always talking about his piggy bank. So
and the
50%.
interesting thing about this is like right after the Norwegian journalist covered this, the company that makes this jewelry actually went to VK and posted a very long rant talking about how they will and will continue to support Killnet. That they are not going to back down from this at all, which just shows how many people like in or the type of people, the communities that are around these groups
Yeah.
that support them, what they will do to support them.
Yeah. So that's the guy you were talking about. So Logunov Victor, so the owner of Hooligans Jewelry, and there's the picture from Dageblatt, and he
And
makes jewelry in that in that kind of same idea as his other jewelry is also very much rock kind, biker kind of rings, so heavy rings with skulls
heavy
and
metal type of
yeah,
like designs,
yeah,
yeah, skulls and crossbones, and what I found interesting is that these two pieces of jewelry underneath what they call the ZOV Connect collection,
yeah, the Zov
which
collection.
if you're familiar with the conflict in Ukraine, Z, O, and V
Uh,
are the three main letters that they're spray painting on the side of their
yeah,
vehicles. So
yeah, the Zov collection, and on top of that, I'm just skipping quickly to this slide. I'm gonna come back, but look at the background where you have different kinds of communistic symbols, and then you have a symbol that will be very familiar for the ladies who are joining in. This
in the
looks
hype
like
piece,
Louis Vuitton, LV. It's like the same fonts, and you see it here in bigger. However, from the L they made a Z from the ZOV collection, so ZOV, so ZV, and they put that in the back with the communistic symbols out there.
and, just
It's
if you go back to the earrings for a second,
yeah,
just from an artistic point of view, like the detail and the design on
uh,
this is actually very quality. Like this artist is actually a true artist. Looking at the back pins, the earrings with the two swords and the kind of
hey,
shield type of looking
careful,
backing.
are we they gonna think that we're promoting,
Uh,
sponsored.
Not promoting it. I'm just saying it's pretty cool, huh?
Well, anyway, only the Russians who are watching can buy one because the Western world cannot get access to it.
And I will admit to that. I tried to see if I could buy one. They will not ship it to America. So
Yeah, and they're not on eBay either. I also checked. So yeah, so that's our Valentine tip. It's matching jewelry, a ring for him, earring for her. But unfortunately,
and the funny part about it is actually on the Hooligans website, they reference upcoming Valentine's Day and what you could buy for your significant other.
yeah,
And it directly references these two items. So I think
yeah,
this is all around really hilarious and it shows how the threat landscape is not only growing and evolving, but showing how social circles
yeah.
around these activist groups evolve.
Well, some people might be asking, how do they come to this jewelry guy? And apparently, there was a person who worked for this jeweler who makes jewelry, handcrafts them for hooligans. And he was member of the Killnet group, so he was one of those people in the Telegram that helped with DDoS attacks. So that's how he came up with that idea of making Killnet branded jewelry. And then the owner said, okay, well, 50% of the proceedings will go to Killnet. Whether it's business or patriotism, that we don't know. The
So
same.
this is what I was mentioning when people in Russia support pro-Russian hackers and
Uh,
lose
mhm,
uh, some of their career because of it. It's
yeah.
this is a local rapper in Russia that was underneath a music label, Infinity Music,
Gajio
and
Boima.
posted.
Yeah.
I wasn't even trying to pronounce his name to be honest. But he posted a music video, actually a
Yeah.
song to multiple online outlets.
Yeah.
What it was in
Yeah,
July, June, some.
you can hear it, yeah. If you go to the links, you can play it in Spotify. We cannot play it here because if we play it for some kind of silly reason, our video will be taken offline because of copyright, because we're playing copyrighted music. But it's out there on YouTube. If you go to Spotify, you just search for Killnet Flow. Go to YouTube, search for Killnet Flow, and you will find the video. And the video is also it's a video is about breaking news. So American news outlets who are breaking about attacks on Killnet, who are covering attacks on Killnet. And the song, it's all in Russian, but there are some English snippets out there. It's like Killnet, oh shit, and they're singing, and the narrative. So I asked somebody who knows Russian and who could listen to the song, and he said that yeah, it's just about their tactics, their techniques. So basically, what they do, they attack American sites and they publish sites about all the attacks they did and how they got coverage in the news and how Killnet was in Russia today, how he got interviewed and some images of that. But it's actually so. And it's on Spotify, it's on Deezer, it's on Apple Music, it's all there. You can just go there and you can just go listen to it. It's kind of amazing how this song was never really picked up and nobody talked about it. So
Yeah,
so
except for this Norwegian news outlet.
yeah,
They really
yeah,
dug into it and they found that this guy not only made the song, but his record label fired him
yeah.
because he supports Killnet, which is absolutely crazy to think that a Russian, could lose his career for supporting other pro-Russian hackers.
Mhm,
But the one thing I want to bring up is that this is not so unique. It's very actually common for artists to make music through arts and entertainment to support hackers, right? So, like,
mhm.
I think it was 2011. There was a hacker slash rapper named YT Cracker. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with him. Wrote a song called Anti-Sec, and Anti-Sec was literally about LulzSec, who they're hacking, how they're hacking, even to who you could connect to and communicate with, which turned out to be a Fed. But the interesting thing, the reason why I bring this up is because it was a huge hit back then, right? Everybody in the United States absolutely loved this song when it came out, even though LulzSec was hacking the FBI and many government agencies. And then even funnier point to this is that 3 weeks ago, world-renowned artist Deadmau5 released a remix of Anti-Sec by YT Cracker. So it just shows you like how on two different sides of the field that one hacker or one rapper can make a rap song about a hacking group and lose his career, while another rapper can make a song about hackers and actually have his career accelerate.
Well, yeah,
Very,
yeah.
very interesting.
I don't think it was only because of the song, because they found out that he donated to Killnet, and that was probably the reason that Infinity Music, so the founder of Infinity Music, stopped the cooperation with the rapper because they also have international songs, so that
Yeah.
might affect their other songs and their other business as Infinity Music if they're not affected yet by the sanctions. I don't know.
Speaking of giving Killnet cash,
Yeah.
there's many ways that social circles can support hacking groups, and this is the most direct way that
Yeah.
a group can actually support Killnet.
Yeah, they also do art. advertising. It's pretty hard to spot because the advertisement are just in Telegram and they're like a message that was forwarded by Killmilk into Telegram. But there are several messages about NFTs and crypto which would pretty much mark what's going on in advertising in those areas and those channels. Also, Solaris is another source of income, the dark web marketplace, and it's gonna come back in the next slide. But we already covered that Killnet was DDoS for hire or received donations from Solaris with donations that went very close together with DDoS attacks on the number two Russian-speaking underground drug marketplace, which is called Kraken. So Solaris and Kraken both came up, but we're gonna talk about it in the next slide. But they both came up and they were in competition. So Solaris basically just leveraged Killnet to perform attacks with his botnets, because before the war, Killnet was a botnet for hire. So also to leverage his DDoS attack tools against Kraken, and yeah, he got funding for this. And actually, we have also found out on the slide, the next couple of slides, how much funding they got.
Yeah.
So, and then there's also probably something with ton NFTs because they're always talking about and referring to those ton NFTs. But we're not sure yet. It might be that it's just for their own profit of some people that are on that Telegram channel, or it's related to Killnet. We're not sure.
Well,
But
also,
NFTs, yeah,
Killnet has their own ton-based social media site. It doesn't have wide exception. There's, like, I think only 28 posts on their
yeah.
profile, but they're definitely trying to do some kind of social media NFT
Well, yeah.
ton thing over on another
If
site.
you're a criminal and you want money, where do you go? NFTs, right?
Money, money, money,
Or
money.
or if you're a celebrity and you want to do a rug pull, you start NFTs.
We're not going to name any of those, but yeah,
No.
brutal.
Yeah, brutal.
So as Pascal was saying, Solaris and Kraken are both darknet marketplaces. Specifically, they sell drugs, and they're also Russian-based darknet marketplaces. But over the month, we saw Solaris actually was taken over by Kraken. So the attack involved
Yeah, but they
redirecting.
yeah, first they attack Kraken, right? So we said on the last slide, so Solaris was the
Right.
one who was attacking Kraken and pushing them down, so Solaris became number one, and then Kraken was fed up with it.
Yeah,
Came
by some
back.
reports, they say Solaris took 25% of the market share after the Hydra takedown, and
Mm,
Kraken only took 10.
yeah.
With them both being drug-based Russian marketplaces, that means there's going to be a lot of competition
Hmm.
and attacks between the two.
Yeah, yeah. So they basically took them completely over. If you go to the login site, if you go to Solaris, then you can click one of the links, and apparently the first one brings you to the maintenance server, right, Daniel? You said,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So last night,
yeah,
the onion for the first one on Solaris.fm goes to maintenance mode for Solaris, but the
it
other ones,
it
as
was also
Pascal was
last
saying,
night that I clicked on it, and the last three they all go to a clear website,
mhm.
which is 2krn.at, and that has like a handle like a marketing campaign equals Solaris RIP. That gives you a login for Kraken. So when you go to Solaris main page and then you click on the last three onion links, that will redirect. First you go to the dark web and then you get redirected to the ClearNet, and you get onto the Kraken login page. So that's basically how they took over their business. But also important is that Elliptic, so the people who track cryptocurrency movements reported that Solaris donated 44,000 to Killnet, which is interesting. So donated, we know what that donation looks like. Killnet did DDoS attacks against Kraken for Solaris. That's how they
Yeah, but
became
the
friends.
in the ecliptic report, it really kind of dives into the blockchain and exploring how
Mhm.
the money came about and went to Killnet, which is
Yeah.
pretty interesting. But given the last few examples that we've gone over, there's a lot of ways that Killnet is actually not only building resources but gaining resources and financial funding for future operations, which is pretty notable in my opinion.
Yeah. Talking about cryptocurrencies.
Hmm.
Crypto heists, the Harmony heist, that was mid of last year. Harm the Harmony Horizon Bridge, which is which is the bridge that takes the Harmony layer 1 blockchain. So blockchain also has a layer 1, layer 2, so application layer and the actual communication layer there. Was exploited for 100 million in altcoins. And on January, those hackers that stole that money tried to exfiltrate 41,000 of the Ethereum that they stole. So convert it into their own wallet. And that's where the feds actually found out that, or better confirmed that it was the North Korean state-sponsored Lazarus that was behind the group that took that 100 million. And actually, I saw like a couple of minutes ago from mail from Dark Reading, like how many billion was it that that Lazarus took? I cannot find the email right now, but
I
it
don't
was
know the specific amount, but I know it was in the billions.
yeah, it was like two billion from crypto investors that were stolen by only by Lazarus. Not saying that Lazarus is the only one. There's a lot of crime out there, but Lazarus has been stealing a lot of money, and we all know where that money goes to, right? So, and also interesting is that North Korea tried to use a tool which is called Railgun. You see on that image that like all the transactions, so you have Tornado Cash and then it comes down with withdrawals and they all come down in a single point and then they spread out again. That's where Railgun sits. So I just checked what Railgun is and I'm by far not a specialist, but Railgun seems to be a tool where you can get privacy back into the crypto ecosystem. So you do know, and as you can see on the previous slide here, everything you do in crypto is public. It's like saying, look, I have my Visa card here, and every transaction I do, Daniel can go to a website and find out what transactions I did with my Visa card. He can even see my Visa card number. So yeah, it's unregulated. It's for the people, but everybody can see what you're doing with your money, how you're using it, where you're from, who you get money, where you spend your money, or better, your crypto. Not well, it's crypto money. But Railgun is actually a tool that would bring back that privacy. So what they made is a special contract, and it works on Ethereum as well now. So it's Ethereum, BNB, Polygon. So those are the change where it works on. But it's actually basically a smart contract that can be used, and with that contract, the wallet addresses are removed. I don't know exactly how they do it, but you don't have the wallet addresses anymore that are visible in the Open Ledger blockchain. So nobody can go to the Ethereum blockchain and find out and track how those wallets were moving money from one wallet to another. It's not visible anymore. So it brings back that whole privacy and yeah. So that means that it's end of the road for those who are trying to track where cryptocurrency is going. So the use cases, of course, it's about privacy because yeah, people, if you have your Visa card, you don't want everybody in the world to know where your Visa transactions, what you did last month, right? Well, the same goes with cryptocurrency. You don't want people to know what you did with your crypto. Then dark pool trading is of course there, so that some people can start tradings without triggering the whole community. If you are one of the big trading companies, this also exists in real trading as I read it. You don't want to trigger a whole community because you think that there might be something interesting there, so you want to do that trading, but not visible to the rest of the world, so dark pool trading. But of course, criminals evading authorities is a very good use case for this railgun as well. So kind of interesting how this railgun is bringing that back. And that brings us to the book of the month, and of course, yeah, and I have it here just to show you. Yes, I have it. I
I'm big into digital books, you know,
well, yeah, no, I
old
have the
guys into
digital
the old
version
books.
as well, but but in this case, well, actually, I have two of them because I pre-ordered it on Amazon and then like because it was like 6 months before it came out, and then for some reason I pre-ordered it again. And then the day come that the book came out, I got two copies and I thought, oh cool, Amazon mistaken, they sent me two copies. And then I go look at my transaction. Oh, Shoot, I ordered it twice, but on different dates. I forgot that I ordered it the first time, so I have two copies of them. So for this one, I didn't buy the ebook. I'm reading the paper version for once. Also, on
As I said, I'm
in,
a fan of
in the paper
ebooks.
version, I can show you all my notes and all my tags, you see. In the ebook, I cannot show you that. I cannot show
Plus, you
off
don't
an
have the feeling.
ebook. Huh.
You also don't have the feeling of paper and turning the
Yeah.
page. But this is something that we're going to try and start doing throughout the year. A book of the month. If you have any suggestions of books that you might want us to cover or read and look at, maybe we'll start an InfoSec book reading club. Who
Yeah,
knows?
and Geoff White is also is very he's a great guy. He has a podcast on the BBC where he talks about the Lazarus heists, and it's actually coming from there, his book. It's already his second book. I also have his first book, but I forgot because I got that book for free because I was on a panel together with Geoff, and it's his books are really good. But this one, yeah, Lazarus Heist, of course, what happened, what we're talking about right now, and also what has happened last year. That's like, yeah, that really ties into it. It's crypto, everything that's crypto, and how they pull off their heist. And this is also talking about the Bangladesh heist, which was before crypto started. But everything that happened in the Bangladesh heist and the way that they tried to clean that money and this whole network they have outside of North Korea that works to for the government because those people are working for the government. It's quite amazing if you see how North Koreans that are sent out on a mission outside of the country, how controlled they are. You have those North Korean restaurants where people are serving food. North Koreans are serving food, and those girls sit in a small room. It's almost like a slave. They get almost no money. And people go eat in a North Korean restaurant, and it looks like a normal restaurant, and it's running a normal business, but all the money is funneled back to North Korea, knowing that North Korea has sanctions that they cannot export anything. Same for clothes. There's some clothes out there that are made in North Korea, and they ship it through India and through I don't remember exactly, but it's I believe it's in the book that I read it. I have many sources for that information. By now I forgot where I read what, um, but for sure. So those clothes they are shipped through different clandestine shops and actually some big marks were using clothes where they could not directly see it on the label, but it traces back to North Korea. And they are under sanctions. That's how they make money anyway, even through the sanctions. This
It's a
maybe it's
pretty interesting game the North Koreans play.
yeah. Well, it
Very, very.
might be a playbook that Putin is interested in.
He
That
might
might
get
turn
it.
out to be Russia's future if you look at North Korea. If this continues the way it's going. Talking about little Chinese people.
And cryptocurrency. It's a very interesting image there. But yeah, 8220 gang. So we wrote an alert about this month. It's a gang that's actually known as the 8220 mining group, which is called 8220 gang for short. It's a threat group that's based out of China. It's considered to be very low level, but these groups do cause significant impacts. They basically target cloud providers, poorly secure applications, and they use end-day exploits, which are exploits that have been patched already. These aren't any breaking 1 day, 0 days, or anything like that. These are old exploits that have been patched that other companies have basically refused to patch or have not patched that they take advantage of. They also brute force these applications and servers, but once they compromise these devices and applications, what they do is they drop a custom built crypto miner called PwnRig, and they also drop an IRC botnet called Tsunami IRC. And this allows the group to mine for cryptocurrency, specifically XMR, which is a privacy based blockchain. And also, Tsunami allows them to launch several different types of DDoS attacks, TCP, UDP, just common type of attack vectors.
Yeah, Monero has always been known as providing much more privacy compared to Bitcoin. So I don't know why. Well, yeah, and the term it depends on what is most popular. If you go stealing crypto, you probably don't care much if it's XMR or Ethereal. If you find a vulnerability, you go after it and you take whatever you can, right? So
Exactly. Yeah. But definitely an interesting group to look out for. As I said, low level, they're just using
Yeah,
end
it's not the
exploits and brute
first
force.
time. Yeah.
So as long as that you're patching your devices and you're using secure passwords, there's really not too much to worry about when it comes down to this threat group. But as we all know, a large chunk of this community does not patch their devices properly. So be prepared.
Yeah, patching, keeping, yeah, vulnerability management, to say it in enterprise terms. But it's becoming hard for enterprises to keep up with everything that's happening and all the software that they have and all the dependencies that build in. And we will and again this time. So I we always talk about software supply chain attacks. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's again a couple in here that's coming up. Um, MC Crash, well, not MC the rapper, and not Mac Crash either. It's Microsoft. Sorry, Minecraft Crash.
Minecraft.
Yeah, when I first saw MC Crash, I was thinking, what is it? What was Microsoft thinking? Like MC Crash, like the rapper, or is it Mac Crash, like the McDonald's? But no, it was much easier than that. It was actually more obvious. Minecraft Crash. Well, it's actually kind of an interesting one. But first I thought like, okay, hey, come on, there's another botnet out there that is attacking Minecraft servers. Where did I see that? Like yeah, October 2016 when Paras was doing his thing with the Mirai botnet. The Mirai botnet that was actually development that he did to attack competing Minecraft providers, and then selling DDoS services for Minecraft providers. Yeah, so Minecraft has been having that intimate relationship with DDoS botnets like forever, since 2016. This has been always the case. So I said, yeah, yet another botnet attacking Minecraft servers. But the interesting thing about this one is that the way that he spreads. So this bot initial attack vector initially people download it on their Windows machine and they download it through a malware that promises an activation. So it's a crack, it's an activation of Windows 10. So you download that activation software that will do a crack on your Windows to make it a real activated version. But as we all know, those cracks, those are not the same cracks as like we were teenagers, where you could trust the crack. If you download something that says crack or cheat nowadays on underground forums, you can be
Oh, you're
sure
definitely.
that it's malware.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
info stealers, malware, whatever. So don't do that anymore. There used to be a time when we were teenagers where we were searching for cracks on those forums. You could still use them and not be scared about having your information stolen. By the way, most of the time you had to do it through dial-up connection, so there was not even an internet connection to host a command and control server. So those were different times. But nowadays, if you see crack, you
Mhm.
already know now equals malware. Okay, so don't download it. But that's how it spread. So it came onto Windows host, and then from the Windows, it starts to search in the network. From that Windows machine, it starts to search for machines on the internet that have SSH port open. So basically, what a bot herder does nowadays, if they have IoT botnets and they want to brute force or do a dictionary attack on SSH, they just start up a cloud server, they start scanning, brute forcing SSH. Once they're in, they download the script, they execute the payload, and then that connects to the command and control server. Exactly the same here. And the payload is actually a Python script. And that Python script, when it runs on Windows, what it does is scanning for SSH-enabled devices on the internet, tries to do a dictionary attack. When it finds a device that's being breached through that dictionary attack or compromised through that dictionary attack, it downloads the same Python script again, but now when it runs, it's a DDoS. And that DDoS is specifically set up to attack Minecraft servers and to get Minecraft servers to crash. Microsoft also noted that it's most likely offered as a service on the underground forums. So what has been going on since 2016, where you had that Minecraft community where they have customized servers, it was actually big business, those Minecraft servers, and where there was
Oh yeah.
DDoS protection providers, and those providers were actually the attackers as well because they created their own market. It was a shady market. It still is, and still on underground forums. So still the same story, but this twist of leveraging a Windows host to spread to SSH. That's the first time that I saw that. Moving into another botnet, Golang seems to be the language of choice nowadays. It's hard to reverse, it's easy to cross-compile, easy to deploy. You don't have any dependencies. We will come back to why dependencies is a bad thing anyway in a couple of slides. But GoTrim, discovered by Fortinet. It's a Golang botnet for brute forcing WordPress sites. So okay, nothing new here, but it's also kind of a strange way of going about. So what happens is that a bot comes into a device. It comes in with brute forcing attacks through SSH, and what the bot does is scanning for new websites that are based on WordPress. So whenever it finds a WordPress website that is susceptible to to one of the username passwords, it will not do anything. It will just report that back to the command and control server. So apparently there's a human operator, the botnet operator that sits behind it, that gets that credential and then goes to that website and downloads and installs a shell, so a Chinese shell. And that Chinese shell is a PHP script, and that script will then, in his turn, download another payload, which is the bot that originally found that website. So that's how it spreads, like kind of automatic discovery, but with something manual in between. It looks a lot like Mirai. So Mirai also scans for SSH, but the Mirai bot that scans, the distributed scan, will not infect the machine itself. It will send the credentials to the command and control server, and that command and control server then spawns a load process, and it's the load process from the central infrastructure that will actually infect the device and put the payload on it, using the information that was leveraged by the bot. So it's not the bot itself that installed it, like a central but here the central process is replaced by a human, apparently. Or at least that's what Fortinet thinks. Maybe it's also an automated process. It can be that is a part of an infrastructure that they missed. But anyway, strange how they go about it. But WordPress again, yeah. What can I say? WordPress comes back quite a lot and often.
Very often.
Emoji deploy, yeah. But we've already said it. A complexity of infrastructure, it doesn't help a lot. Moving to the cloud because it's more secure. Yeah, but it's pretty complex, to manage the cloud.
Mhm.
And there were some remote command execution vulnerabilities that were discovered by people from Hermetic. Never heard of Hermetic, but they did quite a good job here because they found out that through a cross-site request forgery. Yeah, when you talk cloud attacks, remember Page, who we talked about recently,
Oh
but
yeah,
who attacked Capital One 2 years ago.
Paige Thomas. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was not cross-site, that was server request forgery, but all pretty much the same idea. Like you go through a website to get access to metadata, and through that metadata you can chain another command that gives you more access, and yeah, then you can bypass the server and you get the information. So here it's again a chain of attack exploits, highlighting because people have no visibility into what happens in the backend. So in this case, it was the Kudu software. Well, what is it? The software control server or something, or software management server, the SCM server. I never heard of Kudu even. Cannot
Yeah,
remember.
neither have I.
So, but it's an important service that underlies Azure Functions, Azure App Service. So Azure Functions is like the Lambda functions, function as a service. Um, do you have Azure App Service, Azure Logic Apps? So it has something to do with APIs and functions that you can put out there in the cloud. And it has to do with managing the code in a central place. So you submit your code and probably it's pulled from there for the functions. But they find a way through cross-site request forgery to get bypasses, and yeah, they could do remote command execution and run any command with the permissions of the web server. So it's another example about so it's already solved, and luckily it was a good guy who found it, but it's not the first time that we come across misconfigured or opaque permissions or opaque ways of running that actually put organizations at risk because they didn't know that this in the backend was working like that and that it might be at risk when they expose that to the internet. So yeah, that's what happens.
Onto an FBI warning from a warning from the FBI. I'm dyslexic there a little bit. The FBI is actually warning about Google ad abuse, and if you've been living underneath a rock for the last few weeks, and you probably don't know what this is, but
No, I've been in
if you're
holiday, not
aware,
under a rock, by the way.
I think even if you're on holiday, you'd probably see this. This is actually pretty interesting series of events here. So the FBI put out this what is it public service announcement. It's either a PIN or a PSA. Um, but it's basically talking about how threat actors are leveraging Google Ads to direct users to malicious websites. So what the threat actors are doing is that they're placing an ad through Google Ads, which actually ranks above #1 search result. So like if you were looking for example OBS, you would have an OBS advertisement that would likely be above the actual OBS link, which you can get into SEO about why people have in the past have paid for advertisement for the same keywords, but it is something that's very common. These threat actors are taking advantage of this by enticing victims to actually download malicious packages that would often contain info stealers and ransomware. Specifically, we have an example of this, as I was saying, OBS. There is a
Mhm.
very famous NFT figure in the industry, NFT God, and he lost a life-changing amount of money over the last few weeks after downloading a fake OBS package via Google Ads. So as you can see right here, specifically in this example, person has searched for OBS, and there's an ad for obs-studio.com, which is not the domain for OBS Studio. Once you download this package from this malicious link, an info stealer would harvest all your valid credentials and then leverage that to basically enter every single channel and every single wall that you own and possess and empty them. This was a very sad situation, but this is not the only situation.
By the
Brave,
way,
the
we,
browser.
we, we are streaming from OBS right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. And this actually image came from OBS. They put out an alert about it, like please do not download this.
Everybody on YouTube that's streaming is using OBS pretty much,
Yeah, and
even
as I said,
recording.
like it forced OBS to go out there and actually publicly post on social media platforms, multiple social media platforms, this exact image warning users not to click on the ad for OBS. That they're very aware of it. And there's been other examples over the last few weeks of like Brave browser and other different packages that are abusing Google Ads. So this is definitely a huge issue. And some people have brought up the question in the community that since Google owns VirusTotal, why aren't they able to use VirusTotal to scan all these links that people are paying for advertisements to see if there's malicious packages on the actual host? But I guess that's a future problem for Google. But currently, if you are looking to download a package, please verify the domain before clicking on an ad on Google.
Yeah. Not only when you download cracks.
Yeah, it's brutal out there. It's getting just
Yeah, I don't know. Software supply chain attacks. We're back. And during the holidays, it was PyTorch that was compromised. So PyTorch, it's a Python machine learning framework. It's very popular. It's like what TensorFlow from Google, but this is the how are they called now? Facebook.
oh
The
Meta.
yeah the Meta counterpart that's now also in open source. So Meta, oh yeah, it's even there. So it's developed by Meta AI and then given to the Linux Foundation umbrella to continue it. But what happened is that PyTorch has a library, an internal library that is called Torch Triton. And that library is downloaded as a dependency, or better, installed as a dependency with the PyTorch library. Now, somebody was clever enough to upload a library with exactly the same name and that contained malicious actions or malicious commands, so malware basically. Now, you have to know that the Python package index, which is the packet manager, when you install Python and you ask him to install dependencies, so typically there's a file there with dependencies. Um, they trust the Python package manager trusts the official store, which is PyPy. But in this case, you shouldn't have trusted the official store because the official store is where the malware was posted by the attacker. So in PyPy was a package named Torch Triton. So when you installed the latest, so the PyTorch nightly between December 25th and December 30th, you would actually download the dependencies, but instead of downloading the official Torch Triton library, no, you will download the one from PyPy, which was the one that the attacker put in the Python package index. So this kind of supply chain attack is also known as dependency confusion because you have dependency and there's two sources for the dependency. Which one should I take? But PyPy always takes precedent. So it's a good lesson for PyTorch maybe also and for other people. If you have dependencies, either put them in PyPy directly or put a dummy package with that same name under your control in that package index so it doesn't happen anymore. So what did this Torch Triton do? Well, it was, surprise, surprise, an info stealer. So nowadays, what do malware do? Info stealing. So steals IP address, username, current working directory, environment variables, which typically contains your AWS secrets if you're on AWS, and probably your Google secrets and other kinds of interesting things. That sit in the environment. Everything that you don't want to save into a file and upload to GitHub, you might be putting in environment variables. And then there's some important Etsy password. Well, okay, there's no passwords in there, but all the usernames are in there. Password should be in shadow, right? And then the home.ssh, so all your private keys. Probably if you use private keys from that system, or at least your public keys. Git config, and the contents of the first 1000 files in your home directory. So, and the way that it was exfiltrated was through a DNS queries. So what the guy does is he encrypts the data, does DNS query to a specific server, but he owns that server. And by doing a DNS query, you can, for example, do a DNS query for a specific domain. Well, you can encrypt that data in the request. Because he has control of the DNS server, he can download, decrypt whatever data he was exfiltrating. So using DNS protocol to exfiltrate information. And he uploaded that to the hack.cfd domain. Interesting choice of name for an attacker, but when you go to the hack.cfd domain, at least that's what people from who found that attack again? Oh damn! Did I not write down who it was? Oh, not good. It's in the references. Whoever found this attack. So when you go to the hack.cfd domain. Now it's offline, of course, but in the beginning, oh no, it was PyTorch itself. That's why I didn't put it. It's the PyTorch team that manages PyTorch that found the the malicious library and also that domain. So it says, hello, if you stumbled on this in your logs, then this is likely because your Python was misconfigured and was vulnerable to a dependency confusion attack. To identify companies that are vulnerable, the script sends the metadata about the hosts and its host name and working directory to me. After I've identified who's vulnerable and reported the finding, all of the metadata will be deleted. So it sounds like hey, it's an ethical hacker who's trying to find out if you really are vulnerable to this, but he's exfiltrating too much information. He doesn't need the private keys for SSH. He doesn't need the Etsy passwd. He doesn't need the first 1000 files in the home directory. Okay, it can be hard to identify people, but no.
Gray hat research, in my opinion.
It is not the first time that we come across somebody who's trying to do some hacks and then you get linked back, and when you do your research you come on a website that says, hey, I'm an ethical hacker, I'm doing scans for the good of humanity and I will save the internet, blah blah blah. But no, it probably is not. So yeah, dependency confusion attack. CISA, oh yeah, oh, there's a lot of text here. Yeah, I have to tune it down on the text side. CISA warn CISA warns of a Zoho managed engine remote command execution that's being exploited. It's not the first time that we talk about Zoho managed engine vulnerabilities. There have been several last years, and it's one of those from last year that comes up. Um, so what Zoho Managed Engine is a software that provides management capabilities. So where you can go do remote management, IT operations, enterprise services. It's fairly popular. And there is a remote command execution through a SAML-based single sign-on. So the what is it called? SAML, the Security Assertion Meta language, which is a language that's being used to do single sign-on. So what you do is you go to a website, and that website will direct you to a server that does for you the authentication and authorization that is packed into an XML envelope, sent back to your browser. Your browser goes back with that to the original server. The original server gives you access, depending on the attributes. Sometimes the original server and the sign-on server also talk with each other in the backend. It's been in use for a long time. It's more than 10 years, I'm sure. But there was a bug. So anyone who ever authenticated SAM or enabled SAML at some point in his managed engine server is exposed to this remote command execution. And that remote command execution doesn't need any authentication. So if you look at the password part, the password manager part, you can just straight go to it and do the remote command execution. So Horizon 3 found that this there is a CVE for this, and it's from last year, so it's a 2022 CVE, and it has been patched in several waves, starting on October last year. I don't know what they mean with several waves, but probably fix, not completely.
Waves of
Okay,
attack.
fix, not completely. Yeah, still a go. Yeah. So on January 19, Horizon 3 security researcher released a technical analysis and a POC exploit code for that CVE, which is quite a reasonable amount of time between the patch. I don't know, depends on the waves, of course, but between the initial CVE and the actual disclosure. But they have a proof of concept out there, and they also found that there were like 8,000 internet exposed products that might be vulnerable. They estimated roughly 10% vulnerable, so it's like 800. It's not that big, but still, it can give a lot of access because it's a remote management. So it's for managed service providers. So that might win big if you get into one of those. Um, but 1 day later, several cybersecurity companies, including Rapid7, found information of, or better, in their honeypots that manage engine instances, or better, they found in customers that were exploited that this was already used in the wild. So exploits are going on, and with that, the CISA puts it on his known exploit vulnerabilities list, the KEV list. That also means that everybody who's a federal civilian agency needs to install that patch immediately if they have it. But I would say the same for the rest of the world. Now, this might look confusing and hard to read, probably. Let me just put it on the. Maybe that's better, but even then, you don't have to read it all. I just want to show how easy it is. Even though that it looks complex, I just put the slide here to show you how easy it is. That's the POC. What is the POC about? Well, you see some things in yellow, like issuer, command, and URL. That's the only thing that a hacker needs to change. The rest is copy paste. You take that SAML assertion, that XML thing, and you just change issuer to whatever you want it to be, and you change command to whatever command you want to run on that system. And that command will run under Java's runtime.exec method. So it's basically a shell command that you can pass and that runs on the server. That's all you need to know, and the URL of the attacker, or better, of the victim, of course. And then you just
Pretty
copy
simple.
paste whatever is there, and you just send it to that server and pray to the gods that it will happen.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a
Oh, the fun
pray and
stuff
pray,
here.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, yeah, we couldn't leave it out. First, we thought, no, we're not gonna talk about it because everybody talks about it. Everybody knows about ChatGPT now, and yeah, probably everybody knows about it. But there was also CyberArk did some research how to use ChatGPT and let him generate polymorphic malware for them. Worked pretty well. Now, I'm not so concerned about the code that comes out of it or the new idea about it. For me, the most important part is the part where they say how little effort and investment it took to build that. So that means that now attackers have access to creative ways to hide their malware with little investment and effort. Where before you saw them starting up with a very crude botnet code that was doing things that everybody could see in their honeypots and it was easy to catch them and find them and monitor them. But right now, out of the gate, they have their code. They just plug their code in ChatGPT and say, hey, make that thing a little bit more better for me, please. Oh, can you add a layer of encryption? Oh, yeah, okay, maybe that's not good enough. Maybe you can do this. And ChatGPT basically does it and does it pretty good. We tried it. We just, of course, there's lots of orange there because you should not be doing that. But hey, who cares? It's for research, right?
Your text isn't orange. You're not asking the right questions.
Yeah. If you see orange, no good. Now, actually, the answer on the right is in black text, and it's much more. Wait, I will put it on the big screen again. It's in black text, and it's actually much more dangerous than the one that he says that you should not be doing this. So what I asked ChatGPT is, can you generate a new custom symmetric encryption in Python? Okay. He said, no problem. I will make an encrypt decrypt function. He's just using XOR with a static key. Yeah, of course. Everyone can do that. And he also says that, hey, keep in mind you should not use that in production. This can be easily broken by any determined attacker. So yeah, he's right. It's not so difficult to break. So that's why I said, hey, can you make it more complex? Maybe add some elliptic curves. I heard about elliptic curves somewhere. Diffie-Hellman, maybe. Yeah. So said you're free to do what you want, but make it better and think about elliptic curves. Okay, so it is possible to add elliptic curve cryptography. Yeah, we can sure do that. So he just made a version, and actually, if you ask him the same question 3 times, he will come back with 3 different Python scripts using different libraries and do a similar kind of thing using Diffie-Hellman encryption and using elliptic curve encryption to create a encryption algorithm and function, which you can just copy paste into your own code. I'm not saying, however, that ChatGPT always gets it right. When you ask Chat,
Definitely doesn't.
yeah, when you ask ChatGPT certain questions like events or what happened, he's sometimes confused. You have to tell him, hey, are you sure that this happened and that was the case? Oh, no, no, sorry. I think I'm confused. You are right. But I give you another example. Here's another example. So be careful with it, but as a basis and to help you get faster ahead, especially in coding. And a version of ChatGPT is already in use for a while, and I talked about it on the last TRL, which is a Copilot. So Copilot is from Microsoft because then there was a lot of people a lot of controversy about Copilot because it had access to open source and it did not mention the author of the function because what Copilot does is look at the open source code and in your coding environment, so in your Visual Studio or in your Visual Studio Code, so in where you write your scripts basically or your code, you can add a comment and say this function will contact a web server on the internet and get the temperature in Denver yesterday or in the last month. And when you press enter, Copilot will interpret that comment, will go out and start writing for you the snippet of code. And he will even highlight which variables you need to fill in yourself to give it a name, like which server you want to use. It's basically the same what ChatGPT did. You can ask the same question to ChatGPT, but that's integrated in the coding environment, and that's actually that's a pay for tool. So there is an offering from Microsoft where you can buy Copilot or pay monthly for Copilot, and yeah, Copilot works really great. I tried it a couple of times. It's really great. Um, you just put the comment and he puts all the code, and it's actually what it's not doing anything new because before what you do, well, you go to Stack Overflow. You find an example from somebody, you copy
Yep.
paste it, you read it, you fix it if needed, and then you put in your own variables. Well, Copilot is basically the same thing. It's like, but it's automated. You just put in the comment instead of typing your Google query. You just put in the comment in your code, and he generates it, and you adapt it. So it fits much more better in your flow. You don't need to remember that, especially when you move from one language to another. That's always my problem. It's like, okay, I do know how I need to do it, but I forgot how the syntax was in Python or which library I needed in Python because then I'm on Golang and then you do Rust, and then you do something else. It's like it's always a drag. So I always find myself going to Google trying to find out how do I get a certain element from an associative array, for example. And then you say in Python or in Go, you will see the two different syntaxes, but I always forget which syntax is what because I don't write enough code. That's basically it. But this helps you, and it can even help you understand certain code.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely.
so yeah, it's a tool that will enable both sides of the fence again. Remember, those
It's
attackers
just
have the
basically
same
it's
tools as
basically just an assistant for any attacker out there or
yeah,
any researcher. You know,
yeah.
it's how you use it. The content's going to be inaccurate, but as we say all the time with AI and machine learning, there's going to have to be human intervention at some point, right?
Now, the good thing is it's so popular that you almost get no answer in time. So
Yeah.
you have to be really persistent to make it work because a number of times that I got like the error timeout or that he said sorry disconnected or we're at capacity now. So it's very famous at this moment, so it's really hard to. But there are some paid tiers. I understood there's some professional tiers. Somebody made a YouTube video about it. Oh yeah, and the YouTube is of course it's full of people who make a business out of this and who make millions a day. So if you go to YouTube, you want to become rich, Chat GPT millions a day, you will find lots of instructions how you can make Chat GPT work for you and you become rich without doing anything. Of course.
Yeah. So moving on to ransomware attacks, the Guardian confirmed that there is a ransomware attack against them. This is actually pretty epic. It's a very large media firm, but they detected the attack on December 20th, and the next day they announced the attack publicly and they sent all the workers home. Now this is where things get a little interesting. The attack was so severe that they extended the work from home notice till January 23rd, which was 3 days ago. So very, very long downtime, very huge impact. Of course, the Guardian has still been able to publish articles, but they have been slightly diminished because of that. But anyways, the attack is very complex. It's ongoing, and the attack was likely triggered by a phishing attack. And this is something that we've seen many times over the last year, and this is going to become a huge trend going into 2023 as far as info stealers and phishing attacks designed to get credentials and pivot actors further. That is the best way to get in if they don't have an exploit to pop your network with. They're going to go with the tried and true method of just stealing credentials. Also, moving into another ransomware attack was Rackspace. Rackspace confirmed that they were actually attacked by a ransomware group called Play. This ended up taking down their Microsoft Exchange environment, which resulted in customers losing access to their email, specifically their email data. Um, but as a result of this attack, Rackspace had to provide customers with a free Microsoft 365 license. This attack was actually leveraging an OWASSRF zero-day attack. Two, a little bit of a typo there. This was
Yeah.
covered by CrowdStrike in a blog. It was a zero-day that was basically used to
Yeah.
bypass not proxy, not shell URL rewrite mitigation, which is CVE 2022418080.
Wow, my ears are blowing up now. So the OWA Outlook Web Access, yeah, the SSRF server side request forgery, those are
Mhm.
pretty much what we were talking about a couple of slides back.
Yep, exactly. So very, very large impacts on ransomware groups there. The Guardian and Rackspace are probably some of the biggest companies out there that can be targeted. And then just a little bit additional news for ransomware. As I was just looking on Twitter, it looks like Hive ransomware group has been seized by the FBI this morning. They have a seizure notice on their Onion domain. So
They have been seized.
hopefully
You
that's
were looking. Somebody comes in. You're being swallowed.
yeah, no, no. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my dog who's acting up
Ah,
over
okay.
there. Uh,
Yeah, I'm also
um,
looking. I will look the other side. Okay, you
no,
look
no,
that side.
yeah, sorry, my he's making all kinds of commotion over there. But yeah, like I was saying, this ransomware issue is becoming a very, very prominent issue. More people are not paying, which has been a drop in ransomware,
Mhm.
but it's still a persistent issue year over year. But like I was saying, the FBI this morning raided Hive, so I guess it's one less operator, or at least temporary less operator
That is the
than
new
before.
positive trend that's some have been talking about from last year. It's lesser and lesser people are paying. But that
Yeah,
also
exactly.
means that more and more people are being impacted because not paying means that the information goes out there. Even when you pay, you're not sure that it never will go out. But yeah, not paying, you are sure that the information is leaking, which leads to more attacks, to more
I think
scams.
most organizations are learning that um, they need to be prepared for ransomware attack. It's not a question of when, or not a question of if, but when.
No,
And
of
the fact
course.
that they're not paying kind of, at least to me, shows that they have backups, or they're just prepared to
Well,
take,
yeah, but
the hit on the chin.
yeah, it's not only about the backups, it's also about the information that has been stolen. If they can identify the information and know exactly what is stolen, okay, they can do good mitigation about it. But if like 35 million customers are stolen and their social security IDs leaked, that leads to more scams and problems again. So
Yeah.
pay, not pay, it's always a difficult one.
So moving into
Yeah,
video games and
R-Factor.
outages related to the different types of entertainment, here is a really good one. If you know Pascal and I, you know that we're F1 fans, and this was very interesting because I'm a huge Max Verstappen fan, and the way that I actually found out about this issue was via Max Verstappen's social media page with him complaining about this game hosting company. So game host R Factor 2 announced delays in the race. So 24-hour Le Mans, if you're familiar with it, it's a real race that happens in real life. It's 24 hours of racing, and some companies have decided to try and start doing that with virtual simulators and online racing.
Yeah, you have
But
like Formula One that is being used as an e-game online, but R Factor is one of the most well-known and the oldest out there that provides for so gaming for with steering wheel and pedals like you're in a real car, but also does
mhm.
it with teams. So where you have a team of 2 or 3 people who go into a race, and that race it's really it's like a championship. It happens over several qualifications, and then you get in the final stage, and that was actually what happened to Max because he went through all those qualifications. So that was actually a work of couple of months leading up to that final event where they were racing. Yeah.
Which he vents about it. In his long live stream rant that he had, he was complaining about how this company had dropped the ball, about how him and his team had spent months preparing and qualifying for this race, and basically how he was going to remove this game from his computer and free up some space. He was quite upset. He left the race and he didn't come back. And like I was saying, 24 Hours of Le Mans is a real race that happens in real life, but this is a digital version. It's a 24-hour virtual race with real teams. So this is meaning multiple drivers and crewmen and whatnot for virtual issues. A little strange to me because I actually don't follow it, but I watch real racing. Anyways, there's also spectators that can watch this 24 hours of race. So like you could log on and watch a live stream. And even there's weather. So like if there's in the middle of the race, there could be a rainstorm, virtual rainstorm. There could be wind. There could be track conditions that result in yellow and red flags. But because of DDoS attacks, these 2 servers that were used for the race actually went offline, caused service degradation. They went out quickly to try and pause the race, and over the time, what ended up happening is many racers like Max Verstappen just rage quit and they left and they didn't come back. Eventually, R Factor 2 was able to bring the servers back up online, but by that time, the damage had been done. Many people were already complaining on social media. The impact to the reputation was pretty severe on this one, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, especially when somebody like Max Verstappen who nobody knows, starts ranting about it.
Only a two-time world champion in F1 there.
Yeah, no,
And I
note
personally
to
like
Max,
Max
by the
because of
way.
his
Hey,
rants.
yeah, hey, Max, you're a great driver, but next time you get a DDoS attack, come to us, okay? We can help you with that.
Yeah, but also rants about it because I love seeing the angry Max just yell and scream about a DDoS attack, which
That
I could
that
relate
is
to
the
him when I saw
competitive
that.
spirit. Yeah, that's the competitive
Yeah.
spirit in people. But yeah, yeah, I can imagine how I would be. I think my screens would not be safe if that happens.
I've been known to punch a screen or two.
Yeah, there are some videos on the internet where people are like dropping the old monitors, the CRT screens, like boom, because of
Oh
games.
yeah.
Yeah, and the games were not
No,
even
it's
online in that time. Now
I
it's
get it.
okay.
Like if you're spending months to qualify for an event and a DDoS attack takes down a network that was not prepared for a DDoS attack, it's another subject too. Is like you look at the Taylor Swift sale of tickets that Ticketmaster came out and said it was DDoS attacks, but a lot of people are sitting there saying like, hey, you're Ticketmaster, you should have been prepared
Yeah.
for this much traffic. Was it a DDoS attack or was it just a what do they call a spike, a flash mob of traffic and
Uh,
users? The same thing should go with video games. Is that
Yeah,
you
well,
know
yeah.
that not only are a lot of people are playing video games, but a lot of people are watching people play video games.
But not only just video games. We're talking esports now. So things like R
Yes.
Factor and F1 2022, they're used in esports, and at the end, people can get prize money or can get so they're actual esports. So there's money involved in that
Well,
case.
yeah,
I'm
we've been
sorry,
talking
but
about that
there's no
before, like League of
excuse.
Legends.
Yeah, there's no excuse for R Factor to drop the ball on this. If you would tell me, well, it's well, yeah, Minecraft is also, yeah, but which games are not esports? But if, like, yeah, Fortnite maybe. If Fortnite drops the ball, okay,
Well, I was gonna say
people are
like
not
League of
happy.
Legends
But
has like multi-million-dollar purses. Fortnite has multi-million-dollar purses. A lot of
League
those
of
games have
Legends, yeah,
been, yeah, like as I was saying, like a lot of those companies are already prepared for those kind of things
yeah.
because they went out and they started doing them years ago. Now at 24 hours, I think this is the third time they tried to do this.
Hmm.
So it's a relatively new uh, thing for gaming, specifically esports and racing. But I think
Yeah.
this is a solid lesson for the industry to be prepared for massive waves of traffic if you're
Hmm.
planning on hosting a 24-hour
Yeah.
simulated race.
Hey, it's a car game. They will have massive amounts of traffic. Of course, there's traffic, Daniel.
No,
High-speed
all
traffic,
the
you
kind
mean?
of. I'm just trying to work in a few puns there.
Yeah. Oh, quick packets here.
Exactly.
Talking about games.
Yeah.
Another car game. And by the way, remember that League of Legends reference. It will come back when we talk about Riot games. Um, GTA Online, there was a bug. Yeah, GTA Online has been online like forever. How long is it?
I
10 years?
think
Maybe.
7 or 8. It's been a long
Uh,
time.
yeah. I stopped playing that a long time ago, luckily. But it's
I
still
still play it every now and then, but I'm looking forward to the new map. After we had the guy from what was it? Forget what hacking group it was. The British kid that leaked out the new maps for GTA coming
lapses.
out.
Lapses?
Lapsus, yes, yes, yeah, yeah. The kid that holds the lightning rod for Lapsus, he leaked out the new maps for
White,
GTA,
yeah.
which got me excited because like we've been playing the same map for, as I said, years and years and years now. So
Yeah.
very excited to see the new one come out.
Yeah. So what happened is a developer that creates a cheat that is called, what is it called? The name is somewhere in there or too much again. North, yeah. So North Grand Theft Auto cheat. Um, that's being used by many players. Found a way, a remote code execution vulnerability actually found through that way how you can change a player's account attributes, like also putting their their money balance to zero, corrupt accounts, ban players from the game, and some reports even said that to do the cheat to ban other players and to put their balance to zero, the people don't even need to be in the same lobby as you. As long as they're playing somewhere online and you know their name, you could use that cheat and you could just zero out their money balance. You could ban them from the game for cheating in the first place while you're the one using a cheat. So yeah, there was quite a lot of controversy about this cheat developer that put that new feature out. So that new feature was apparently published on January 20th. So Bleeping Computer found out in the features of the new release that it was listed as one of the new features. But already by January 21st, when the news started to break and all the complaints were coming, the developer of the cheat removed these new features. And apologized for whatever happened. But it shows that online games, even if they're there for 10 years old, there's still a new vulnerability being discovered.
Oh
And
yeah.
and no nobody was hurt now. Well, some eagles were for sure, but nobody was physically hurt. But still, Riot Games follows the trend of not paying ransom, which is a good thing.
Yep.
On January 20, Riot Games already announced that they were compromised via social engineering, phishing, or other way. Uh, so social
Downloading
engineering
OBS.
attacks and yeah, downloading OBS, downloading a cheat, analyzing the cheat game. Well, hey, yeah, maybe.
Yep.
And the threat actor stole the source code of League of Legends. So League of Legends, a very well-known multiplayer online battle arena. Also esports. It's one of the number one in esports, right? It's where esports started.
hmm
Um, and
League of
then
Legends, World of Warcraft, all that fun stuff were
yeah,
like some of the very first ones.
yeah, and also downloaded source codes of anti-cheat platform. They call it a legacy anti-cheat. I don't know what the legacy stands for, but so, and also team fight tactics server. So battles are probably to allow e-gamers to create some new tactics together in their gaming. So they announced that on January 20th, and Motherboard reported recently that the Riot Games got the ransom note, and the attackers were asking for 10 million US dollar to not leak the stolen source code and delete it, and so take it away from their servers.
Speaking of stolen source code and information about maps, looking back at the GTA
Yeah,
story too,
yeah,
it's kind of funny.
GTA to EA. EA
hmm
was also hacked not so long ago. Yeah, Lapsus, friends from Lapsus were everywhere with the stolen source code.
Oh yeah.
And also in the message, the hackers had a link to the Telegram chat, so they were just using Open Telegram to well, open using Telegram to chat with Riot Games. How to continue, but Riot Games was clear; they will not pay the ransom. And actually,
Yeah.
in this case, I would say, yeah, there's no confidential information from people that's being leaked here. There will be an impact for the company if that source code is leaked out there. That company will. They already were impacted because of those attacks. They could not put up new versions, and their patch fixing and development was impacted by this already. So, and they will be impacted more if that source code is being put out there and abused and leveraged by others for intellectual property, and let alone to find new vulnerabilities and to create new cheat platforms. That will be a gold mine. So, but there's no identity information from third parties leaked. So, in this case, I would say good, good for Riot Games
Yeah.
that they do it.
So into my favorite section, raids and arrests. So we have two stories to cover here. Coming out of the holidays, well, actually right before the holidays, the FBI decided to send a few people to jail. And this is kind of fun because we had asked the question throughout the year, is DDoS a crime? And we saw prevalent attacks. We saw many people joining hacktivist groups and launching all kinds of DDoS attacks against different organizations and countries around the world. And the FBI decided to send a message in the year right before Christmas through Operation Power Off, which is an ongoing coordinated effort by law enforcement agencies basically to take down booters and stressor services and also target those that operate them. In this raid, they were able to take down 48 DDoS services. Pretty impressive, at least in my opinion. And they arrested 6 operators of these DDoS services. Um,
I didn't
this
even
is a
know there
great
were
impact.
48. I didn't find them all.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty impressive if you actually go looking for Google. If you go Google booters and stressors, there's actually a noticeably limited amount of booters and stressors now that you can find. So they're slowly chipping away at the surplus of booters and stressor services that are out there. There's still a lot out there, but they're basically going for the low hanging fruit, the obvious ones, the people that are using Google Ads to advertise their stressor services, also the people that are using SEO tactics to make sure that their booter is number one when you search for it. In this case, I bet that those booters and stressor services that don't do SEO, that sit further down on the Google ranking, probably aren't heavily targeted as those that are on the top page. But that was an interesting arrest right there from the FBI.
It's a
Pascal,
good.
you have something to say?
Yeah, it's a great message that they send also because I remember the guy from IPstress.io, for example. I forgot his name, but he was indicted not so long ago, or
Hmm.
his court proceedings were there, and the guy didn't hide anything. He was just
No.
he was just open about it. He had his domain name registered with his home address. He was doing advertisements on Google with his real name. He didn't care about it. Nobody's gonna come after me. Well,
I
it
mean, you have to
changed.
kind of sit there and think. You wonder, like, I think that guy operated for like 13 years too. You have to ask yourself, like, at any point in time, were they cooperating with law enforcement, and did they get taken down because they stopped cooperating with them? Because to be in operation that long uh, is very, very notable. It's
Well,
very
yeah,
impressive not to get
they
picked
were
off.
also the main sponsor for the IT army of Ukraine for the first 3 months until the
Yeah,
FBI
the
took
IP
it down.
stress.in. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Pretty impressive raid and arrests here, but I think we have the year champion for 2022 that happened like in the last week
Yeah.
of
I
2022.
remember you
And
talking about
this
this
one I
one.
love. I love talking about this one. It was all over Twitter. Case and example: do not drunk drive when you're a spy. I know it's a hard one for people out there, but I mean,
Yeah, and for
dang.
and for law enforcement, not everything that beeps and
Oh yeah.
blinks is a bomb.
That's something I was going to get to in a second there, but this is an interesting story, right? So a woman was pulled over by Paris police uh, under suspicion of being intoxicated. When the police were doing the traffic stop, they noticed a bunch of wires in the back seat. They noticed an antenna, and they're all going to the trunk. They opened up the trunk and they took this photo. And they all freaked out and they ran away. And they said there was a bomb. They called special services down there, and the bomb squad did what the bomb squad does. They blew it the fuck up. It was a really interesting situation. Now, after all this has happened, after they detain the drunk driver and they blow up this device, someone decided to look at the photo and realize that this was actually a very, very advanced professional spy equipment known as an ISM catcher. And then this lady was simply driving around Paris, which happens to be the host of the 2024 Olympics. The Russians will likely be banned from the Olympics, popping towers and finding all kinds of fun stuff. So I think this is really interesting. I think this is also a case, as Pascal said, the cops also need to slow down before they destroy evidence. And if you want to make a funny joke about anti-forensic technology,
Yeah.
I think you should just make all your computers look like bombs for here on out. The bomb squad will have to
Radioactive.
blow up your
Yeah.
device. Yeah,
Oh, it's a
don't
nuclear
worry about
bomb.
don't worry about encrypting your data. Just make it look like a bomb so the cops blow it up. Simple, criminals.
Yeah, well, actually, don't put nuclear on it because then they will not blow it up because of the risk of nuclear. No,
Yeah,
so
yeah, but this is just I'm shocked by it. You
it's
know, it's a story that's unbelievable. You think that if
yeah,
you
it's like
drive
the
around with an
perfect
I,
story. It's like yeah,
yeah, but
it's
like
it.
if you have an SI catcher in the back of your car, right? Why are you getting drunk and drunk
IMZ,
driving? Like you
yeah.
have an objective from a criminal organization to drive around with this device and capture things, and you decide to drink on the job, which is funny because it shows that both white collar and criminal, workers out there,
Yeah, but wait, it
they'll drink
doesn't.
on the job.
What wasn't it a Russian woman?
I believe it was a Russian woman. So yeah,
Yeah,
it gets.
it doesn't say in the slide, but yeah, of course. Well, of course, you know Russian people on the job always.
No, it's definitely an interesting case, and I think the police will definitely learn a lesson from this as far as to be a little slower with destroying
Yeah,
evidence, but also at the same
yeah,
time, I just really wonder what the criminal organization is saying to their person that they told to drive around this thing. I just
yeah. But that is the next risk. The risk of being hacked at some big events is not coming from inside the stadium or from the internet. It's from cars parked in the stadium. Any car
Yep.
can be one of those IMSI catchers or can be
And that's a
a
huge TTP of the
Wi-Fi
Russians. I mean, they were
attack.
known to do that with the whole doping WADA scandal, and
Yeah.
also the Olympics, where they're putting C2 servers in the back of trunks of cars and remoting into them, and
Yeah. Well,
it's
yeah.
unbelievable to see this.
Yeah, it's like the other story, like where you had that guy with the drone that landed on the roof, and on that drone was
Hmm.
was a pineapple? How's it called again?
Yeah, Wi-Fi pineapple. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, for hacking
So
local networks.
hacking into the wireless network. It just landed the drone on the roof, so that means that people nowadays. So if you're security, if you're a company and you're in charge of security, you need to take aerial photographs of your roof every month to make sure that there's no strange device out there, that malicious device that might be trying to break into your Wi-Fi networks.
And if
Because
you're in
Wi-Fi
America,
isn't
just grab your
in.
shotgun and go outside and shoot it out of the sky. You know.
Well, no, yeah, if it lays on
Yeehaw.
your roof, yeah, no, you're not going. Too late. It already landed.
Yeah. So no, I thought that was a really good story, and I thought that was the best raid and arrest of
Yeah,
2022. Drunk
and,
driver with an IMIS catcher.
and a good one to end with. Well, we summarized that well. We made it a short version of the Threat Researchers Live again.
Well, the
uh,
longest version
yeah.
yet, but it's okay.
No, we sit straight on where we always sit, like 1 hour and 40, more or less. I guess, yeah. No, yeah, 2 hours now. Okay.
Yeah, we definitely had 2 hours, but it's
Yeah,
okay. It's a new record.
yeah, the more we try to make it short, the longer it gets. So.
Exactly.
Story of my
Well,
life.
hopefully you all enjoyed the entertainment, and if you want to just catch little segments, we're gonna have YouTube
Yeah,
shorts of each little section. So
yeah,
hope
we
you
will
all
make
enjoy.
the sections and we will make some shorts out of this. And the references are out there, and Daniel will send the newsletter soon. So with that, Daniel, thank you very much. It was entertaining.
Thank you.
It was fun. I learned a lot. So mission accomplished.